Shalom, good evening. This is TV7 Israel News broadcast to you from Jerusalem. And in today's top stories, Israel remains unwavering in spite of mounting international pressure, eager to achieve its war objectives to completely eradicate the Islamist Hamas throughout the Gaza Strip and beyond. U.S. President Joe Biden refers to Hamas's response to the Qatari-Egyptian proposal for a humanitarian pause as a little over the top. The U.S. House of Representatives fails to pass a bill to provide Israel with $17.6 billion in military aid. Israel remains unwavering in spite of mounting international pressure, eager to achieve its war objectives to eradicate the Islamist Hamas, kill its terror operatives and leaders, and to do everything possible to return the remaining 136 hostages who've been kidnapped by Hamas and its terror affiliates during the brutal Palestinian onslaught of October 7th. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu hosted the Heroism Forum of bereaved families who've lost their loved ones during the October 7th massacre, during the course of which they reiterated their call on Jerusalem leadership to fight on until total victory.
שאני חייבת להגיד לכם, מבחינתי השבת הזאת היא שבת קדושה, שבת שמחת תורה. מתו הקדושים שלנו, הילדים האהובים שלנו, ויש לי ממש שיחה מוקלטת איתו, שהוא ממש מדבר איתי, והוא מבקש ממני סליחה. הוא אומר לי, אמא, אני מצטער אם פגעתי, ואני אוהב אתכם. ואני אומרת לו, רם, אתה לא פגעת בנו. הוא ממש כאילו, אני לא הבנתי שהוא מתקשר אליי כדי להיפרד ממני.
אני באתי קודם כל ולפני הכל לחזק את אדוני במהלכים שהממשלה עושה. היינו פה לפני חודש ימים, הסתכלת לנו בעיניים והבטחת והתחייבת שאתה תמשיך בניצחון. אני רוצה להמשיך לחזק אותך, שתמשיך במה שעשית. אני מבין את הלחצים מבית ומחוץ, אבל זה רגע היסטורי, זה לא משהו רגיל, ואני חושב שירשם ויזקף לזכותך הרגעים ההיסטוריים האלה, ובטח עניין הניצחון המוחץ.
Netanyahu responded to the bereaved parents by repeating his pledge to fight on until the destruction of the Islamist Hamas is assured.
אני מדבר על ניצחון מוחלט. זה לא על חצי חמאס, זה לא על 3/4 חמאס, זה לא עוד סבב, זה לעקור את היבלית המורלת הזאת מהקרקע. עכשיו צריך לדעת דבר אחד, הניצחון המוחלט הזה הוא בדרך. מאז שאנחנו נפגשנו, קראו כמה דברים, כמה אנשים אמרו, מה קרה? התקדמנו, אנחנו מתקדמים כל הזמן, לוקחים עוד חלק, ולקרב הזה יש כמה היבטים, כן? בצורה הכי פשוטה, קודם כל להרוג מחבלים. אז בין להרוג ולפצוע, אנחנו כבר פגענו בלמעלה ממחצית הכוח הלוחם של החמאס.
Netanyahu went on to emphasize that the destruction of Hamas is within reach.
לא, הניצחון הוא בהישג יד. אני יודע שיש כל מיני פרשנים ומומחים וכולי שמסבירים שזה בלתי, לא רק אפשרי, זה בהישג יד, הוא מתקרב ואנחנו לא נפסיק. ואז הם לא נפלו לשווא. ואנחנו כמובן גם, אנחנו רוצים ניצחון מוחלט ולא רק חיסול החמאס, גם חיסול המפקדים של החמאס. הראשים שלהם. גם זה יגיע.
Meanwhile, the leadership of the Islamist Hamas effectively rejected the parameters of the U.S. orchestrated hostage deal that was formulated during a Paris summit last week. The Islamist Hamas relayed its response to both Qatar and Egypt, making its own demands, including an extended ceasefire of some 135 days, a complete Israeli withdrawal from the Gaza Strip, the release of all Israeli hostages in exchange for thousands of convicted terrorists with blood on their hands, and an international commitment to pay for the reconstruction of the Gaza Strip, which essentially would include Hamas's own survival.
احنا الآن قدمنا كما قلت ردنا للإخوة في قطر ومصر، وهم من جانبهم سلموه للأمريكان وسلموه للطرف الآخر، والآن نحن ننتظر رد الطرف الآخر، ونأمل أنه إن شاء الله هذه المسألة تمضي يعني. والآن الناس ينتظرون ماذا سيكون رد الطرف الآخر.
Prior to today's visit by U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken in Jerusalem, the top American diplomat held extensive meetings in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, as well as Egypt and Qatar. During the course of his latter meetings, Blinken noted that the Hamas response would be studied, while ironically, the Qatari Prime Minister and Foreign Minister insisted that the blatant response by the Doha-sponsored terror group made him hopeful, irrespective of the fact that Israel could never agree to such outrageous demands.
بأننا قد استلمنا ردا من حركة حماس بشأن الإطار العام لاتفاقية الأطراف بشأن ما يخص الرهائن. يتضمن الرد بعض الملاحظات على الإطار، ولكن في مجمله رد إيجابي على الإطار، ولكن نظرا لحساسية هذه المرحلة لا يمكننا الخوض في التفاصيل، ويدعون هذا الرد بالتفاؤل، وتم تسليم الرد للجانب الإسرائيلي.
So together with Qatar and Egypt, we put forward, as you know, a serious proposal that was aimed at not simply repeating the previous agreement, but expanding it. As the Prime Minister just said, Hamas responded tonight. We're reviewing that response now, and I'll be discussing it with the government of Israel tomorrow. There's still a lot of work to be done, but we continue to believe that an agreement is possible and indeed essential, and we will continue to work relentlessly to achieve it.
Meanwhile, in Washington, U.S. President Joe Biden responded to the Hamas proposal, as part of which he acknowledged that the demands by the U.S. designated foreign terrorist organization was a little over the top, as he put it.
There is some movement, and I don't want to, well, maybe choose my words. There's some movement. There's been a response from the opposition, but yes, I'm sorry, from Hamas, but it seems to be a little over the top. We're not sure where it is. There's a continuing negotiation right now.
President Biden went on to rebuke his main political rival in the United States, namely former U.S. President Donald Trump, as well as the Republican Party, for trying to push a so-called clean bill that sought to grant Israel a $17.6 billion military aid package aimed at contending with the war vis-a-vis Hamas in Gaza, alongside other rising theater threats which are rooted in the Islamic Republic of Iran. The Republican-led bill, which garnered the support of some 46 Democrats, failed to pass ultimately, since it was introduced under an expedited procedure that demands a two-thirds majority for passage.
On this vote, the yeas are 250, the nays are 180. Two-thirds not being in the affirmative, the rules are not suspended, and the bill is not passed.
Republican lawmakers sought to persuade their Democratic colleagues by highlighting that support for Israel should not be attached to other issues which remain in contention within domestic political discourse.
I just can't understand why my Democratic colleagues, whether you think it's political or not, vote yes. What are you, crazy? I just don't even understand the logic. It's a clean bill. Vote yes. Even ultimately, if the Senate does pass their bill and it does come here, then we'll deal with that. But why would you ever want to be on the record on a clean bill opposing aid to the state of Israel? It's foolish.
While 46 Democrats were persuaded to stand by Israel by voting yay, the majority of Democratic representatives voted nay, insisting that the Republican decision to push for a separate bill that doesn't include what the majority of Republicans view as half measures in securing the southern U.S. border, alongside a large package of military aid for Ukraine, among others, was politically motivated.
Republicans have rejected a bipartisan bill that would accomplish exactly what they have asked for. While declaring that bill dead on arrival in the House, the majority has opted to consider a bill that we know the president will veto. This is a political stunt that makes it less likely that Israel gets its funds while endangering U.S. national security.
After months of waiting, I won't hesitate to vote for Israel's defense in this moment of crisis. But I'm enraged that Republicans are playing political games, caving to Trump and the extreme fringe of their party at the expense of our most sacred national obligations. They cynically pound the table about Iran, but they're suddenly blind to Putin's wrath in Ukraine and deaf to Xi's threats against Taiwan. They callously disregard the humanitarian tragedy facing Gazans, who are also victims of Hamas, eroding our credibility and undermining future prospects for a just and lasting peace.
Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News. I'd like to encourage you, pray for the peace of Jerusalem and salvation of Israel. Moreover, it is important to highlight that TV7 Israel is a donation-based non-profit ministry with all of our productions available free of charge. Therefore, if you're blessed by our daily updates and would like to help us bear the costs, please consider making a donation. You can do so by visiting our website at www.tv7israelnews.com. I'm Jonathan Hessen, wishing you an Erev Mevorach. God willing, we'll see you during our upcoming TV7 Israel updates. Until then, Shalom from Jerusalem.